Hi, I'm Claire, and this is On My Shelf Part 2. I did the first part of this video a couple weeks ago, so if you missed it, I'll put a link in the description box below, as well as a card on screen so you can go and check it out. Now, the principle of the video is the same for Part 2. A fair few weeks ago now, I asked people on Twitter to give me 2 sets of numbers that I could use to pick books to talk about in this video. The first number had to be between 1 and 8, and the second number had to be between 1 and I think 30 odd, something like that. The first number represents which shelf I'm picking from, and the second number represents which book I'm picking along that shelf. The first set of numbers came from K.G. Mulder, and that was 5 and 21, which is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I got this at a Gallant event where they had a bunch of their authors come and talk about their books and then also obviously sign their books, so I was in a very long queue to get this book signed by Brandon Sanderson, which is pretty cool. I'm not the hugest Sanderson fan. There are definitely things of his that I really enjoy, but there are also things that I couldn't really get into, and in particular I stopped reading the Stormlight Archive. I tried reading The Way of Kings, but that book is so long. I couldn't even get all the way through the first part of that book because that's 1,000 pages. But Warbreaker is a standalone, which I thought would be a much safer bet, and it is a story of 2 sisters who happen to be princesses. The God King, one of them has to marry, and an immortal trying to undo the mistakes he made hundreds of years ago. And then it goes on to explain a bit more about the magic system, which is called biochromatic magic. It is a power based on an essence known as breath, and it clearly has something to do with colors as well. So it sounds like a proper complex Sandersonian magic system, which was my favorite part of his trilogy Mistborn, so I am looking forward to that. The next set of numbers came from Amy, and it was 3 and 31, which is this tiny booklet here. This is A Slip Under the Microscope by H.G. Wells, and it is a Penguin classic from the 80th anniversary edition that Penguin did recently in the UK, where they released 80 small essays or short stories in these little booklet formats here that they sell for 80 pence each. So you can collect all 80 if you want, and this is number 77. Now, a friend of mine gave me this because she was clearing out some books and there was a pile of books at her house, so she said take whatever you want, and I picked this one because it's H.G. Wells and it's a classic and it's tiny, so I thought if I'm ever desperate to add a book to my Goodreads challenge, I can read this very quickly, but I have no idea what it's about. It has this quote in the front, which I thought would be nice to read out to you. I will go in, out of this dust and heat, out of this dry glitter of vanity, out of these toilsome futilities, I will go and never return. Dun dun dun! Next we had a set from K.R. Green, who sent in 6 and 23, which was Emily and the Hollow World by Martha Wells. This book came out a few years ago from Strange Chemistry, which was the young adult imprint for Angry Robot Books and sadly had to close. I suppose it wasn't financially viable, but I was quite sad because I really enjoyed the line that Strange Chemistry was putting out, and this book is no exception. This is an absolutely delightful YA steampunky adventure story about a girl called Emily who runs away from home so that she can go to her cousin's to train as a teacher there. So she tries to stow away on a ship that will go to the city her cousin lives in, but instead the ship she ends up stowing away on goes to this hollow world at the center of the earth, where they're off to do some scientific experiments and stuff and meet weird aliens, and she just happens to be roped into the adventure because she was on the ship and they can't really stop moving towards the center of the earth once they've started, and it's just really nice and fun. And I remember absolutely loving Emily as a protagonist when I read this book. It has a sequel called Emily in the Sky World, which I also quite enjoyed. The next set of numbers was sent in by someone with the handle 14 Faces, and it was 1 and 29, which is Memory of Water by Emmy Itteranta, and I got this at my local bookstore because it looks very pretty. I really like the cover. This kind of like teal blue green color is something that I really enjoy, and also I had heard Emmy Itteranta writes in a really interesting way where language is concerned. She is Finnish and lives in the UK, and apparently she writes a first draft in Finnish and then does her second draft in English and then does her third draft in Finnish and continues that way, where part of her editing process is to translate it to the other language. And I can see how that would force someone to define the meaning that they have a lot more, and I can see how that would bring different kind of phrasings and different ways of saying things, but also my mind is just blown by how someone can do that. When I saw this book in the shop, it wasn't just that the book was pretty, I also definitely remembered hearing that this is how Emmy Itteranta writes, and I'm pretty sure actually that it was Maya from Maya Read who told me about this, so I'll leave her link in the box below if you want to go check out her channel. She does have a lot of really cool information about Finnish sci-fi as well as general bookish goodness and science fictional goodness. It says on the back, some secrets demand betrayal, and it is the story of Noria, who is entrusted guardianship of this freshwater spring near her small rural village when she turns 17. Soon she will hold the fate of everyone she loves in her hands. Now that is fairly vague, but it does sound pretty cool, and I'm sure when I finally get along to reading it, the prose will be very interesting indeed. And finally, Tyler sent in numbers 7 and 24, and that is The Ship by Antonia Honeywell. I actually first came across this book at the same event that I saw Warbreaker, but by the time I got to Antonia Honeywell's table, I had already had to queue for Brandon Sanderson to sign my book, and so all of her book had sold out, which was great for a debut novel, but I still thought it sounded so cool I ended up ordering it afterwards. This is a kind of post-apocalyptic story about a world which is being flooded, and the protagonist of this novel, her father is one of the richest people around, and he built this giant cruise ship for people to be able to survive the watery apocalypse on. Except he didn't think how his teenage daughter would react to, I built this ark, I'm putting all these people on it, you're obviously on it, and let's not talk about the moral quandaries of this with my teenage child. So obviously she's not super stoked about, you know, being so privileged and knowing that so many other people are dying. Aside from sounding pretty cool, this book is just absolutely stunning. I find the cover to be gorgeous, and in case you can't see, in the background right here, that is the London skyline that you can see. There's the London Eye and some other variously destroyed London landmarks. There is also a quote from M.R. Carey on the front: a beautiful futuristic fable with huge power to haunt and disturb. And this is by the guy who wrote The Girl with All the Gifts, which was certainly haunting and disturbing, and also one of my favorite books of the past few years. So high praise indeed. So that's it, this was another On My Shelf video. I hope you enjoyed it, and since people seemed to like this last time, I'm going to give you another set of numbers so that you can tell me about one of the books on your shelves in the comments down below. Your numbers this time are 1 and 23, so if you want to, please tell me in the comments below about the 23rd book that you have on your first shelf. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out my latest video right here, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button on my face for more videos from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.